Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on that like button if you like my video. Also click on that notification bell. Thank you. Hi, and welcome to my course, Complete Windows Server Administration course. I know why you are here. You are here because you are looking for a Windows course that will help you find a job, right? Or you're probably looking for a Windows administration course that will help you and level up your career or refine your existing skills. Well, whatever your need is, I'll tell you that in Windows administration courses out there, you have come to the right place. I actually do not assume anything. I do not assume that you know anything about Windows. Therefore, I will hold your hand and take you every step of the way and teach you everything about Windows. Fair enough? So, now this is about my course. Now let me tell you about myself. My name is Imran Afzal, and I've been in IT for almost a decade and a half. I have worked in fashion industry, tech media industry, financial industry, so many different companies that I worked in all those years. And in my expertise are Windows, Linux, VMware, presentations, training, project management, and so many different technologies that I have touched and have expertise in all those years. So my education background, I have a bachelor's degree in computer information systems from Baruch College in New York City, and I have MBA in computer information system from NYIT, also from New York City. Now I ask you only two things. One is I actually want you to go on Udemy and find out what other students have to say about my other courses, and then you will find out whether this course will be the right fit for you. And the second thing is, please give me 2 to 3 minutes after this video and watch my course syllabus. That's where I actually have included everything that I will go over in this training. And then you decide whether this course will be the right fit for you. How's that? Fair enough, right? All right, let's go. Welcome to Syllabus Overview. This is we are going to cover everything that I'm going to teach you in this course. I have broken down my entire training in 10 modules. Module 1 is about understanding Microsoft Windows, which are what is Windows, different versions of Windows, Microsoft background and products, Microsoft market share, difference between Windows, Linux, and Macs. You need to know the differences of all operating systems. And then every module, I have included quizzes, handouts for you to read, and do some homework after every module. Moving on to module 2, this is where we're going to set up our lab, and lab will include the Oracle VirtualBox installation, and then we'll create our first Oracle virtual machine, and we will do some of the quizzes, handouts that you need to know about the Oracle virtual machine, and we'll do some homework. Then in module 3, which is about installation of Windows and configuration, the fun part, guys, which we will learn how are the different ways to install operating system. We'll download and install Windows Server 2016. We'll know how to add resources, meaning CPU memory if there's a need to, hostname, system information, GUI overview, and handout quizzes and homeworks. Module 4, moving on with system access and file system. What we will cover is about Windows accessing file system and its description, navigating to different file system. What are the different ways to create files and different type of files, file properties, finding files and directories, file maintenance, copy, delete, move, rename. This is not just the Windows click and double click and move and around. I am also going to show you to do these copy delete from the command line, file operations, file editing shortcut keys, and moving on to module 5, system administration, the real work for you, which is user account management, elevating user roles, monitor user activity, system utility under accessories, programs and service management, service system resources like task managers, event log, something goes wrong, you need to know how to check the events, system maintenance, every system administrator has to go through that. Jobs and schedules, when you need to automate tasks. Windows settings, server manager dashboard, installing and uninstalling programs. What are the applications, Microsoft and third-party ones? What are the shortcut keys for Windows? Check system health and hardware. Then we'll get into one step ahead, which is the advanced administration for Windows. Roles and features installations, domain controller, and Active Directory installation. DNS installation and Active Directory installation. Management of users and computers. Moving on to installing client computer. We will install the client and we will join the client to Windows Active Directory. Administrative Center, Active Directory Domain and Trust, module for PowerShell, site and services, group policy management. All of them are different features Active Directory has to offer that we will cover in this module. DNS administration, I'll show you how you could add records in DNS. Web server installation, this is where you will learn how you will create your first website. Moving on to module 7, which is about scripting. Everything the scripting you will learn in batch. You'll create your own script. You'll automate your task. You will know how to run PowerShell commands, PowerShell ISC, and WMIC commands. I will show you the difference commands between DOS and PowerShell. Then networking and system updates. We will go over NIC, what NIC is, NIC teaming, network configuration, updates, NTP file transfer method, FTP server installation. This is the fun exercise. Sharing file system, WSUS server installation. This is the server installation where we'll send out our updates to the clients. Windows firewalls. Moving on to module 9, components. What is computer storage components? Type of computer storage, how to add a disk, extend a disk cleanup, defragmentation, RAID, Windows backup and restore, quiz, handouts, and so much more. I am already getting tired and we are still not over yet. Module 10, the last one, which I have added additional resources, IT components, jobs, resume, interview workshop, post resumes. I will teach you every step of the way how you could work with your resume and what are the different techniques for your interview. We'll install Oracle VirtualBox on Mac, and then of course quizzes, handouts, and homework. So all these modules that I have covered, now ask yourself just one question: is this the right course for you? What is Windows? Well, I'm sure everybody knows what Windows is, but to actually really get to um, the basics of the fundamentals of how Windows is, how Microsoft built Windows, and how it works in our computer, let's take a look. Well, Windows is an operating system which sits in the middle of your hardware and users. So you have a hardware, right? A piece of brick that, or it's your laptop that you could feel, you could touch it. Then you actually strike some commands on your keyboard, and then you create some programs, you run those programs, right? But there is a middleman in the middle that actually allows you to do that. That middleman is the operating system. And this topic, this lesson, we're going to learn the Windows operating system. So the way it works is, again, you have this machine, right? Physical machine. What you do is you pop the tray out and you insert the CD inside, or DVD of Windows operating system inside. So you boot off the DVD, and once you boot off, it will start asking you questions and it will go through the installation of the entire operating system, whether that operating system is Linux, Windows, Mac, or any kind of operating system. Once it goes through the entire installation of the operating system, at the end, it will give you a message. Hey, welcome to the Microsoft Windows. You have successfully installed Microsoft Windows, and so on. Then what you do is you attach the peripherals outside devices like keyboard, mouse, and then you could actually execute commands from your keyboard. So you actually use your hand, fingers, or whichever way that you want to communicate to the operating system, and those peripheral devices will talk to the operating system. Then operating system will send out your instructions to other peripheral devices such as like a printer. You want to print something, right? It will send that command to the other hardware. Or if you want to send an email or text message to someone else, it actually goes to the internet and it sends those traffic out for you. So this is what exactly the operating system does, and that's what we are going to cover in this entire training course. But you should really know how it works before we actually get into deeper inside to the Windows operating system. The different versions of Windows. Let's look at them and see what versions are there for Windows desktop versions and Windows servers. So I could actually go into and list every one of them on this slide, but it's better that I could just go straight into the Wikipedia, the website that has the list of all the Microsoft Windows versions. So let's go, and I have a page open. And if you go down, or even if you type list of Microsoft Windows versions in your Google, you'll get this page in the Wikipedia. I'll start going down from the first version Microsoft came up with. So Windows 1.01 came in November 20th, 1985. This is the desktop version when the Windows was first introduced. Now I'll skip every 5 years and you see, let's see what happened in 1995. In 1995, Windows NT came along, which was also one of the beginning, more, I would say, successful version of Windows, where a lot of features were introduced, a lot of new roles, and programs that were introduced in Windows NT 3.5. Then 5 years later, in 2000, it came up with Windows 2000 and Windows ME, which is also a lot of times used. Windows ME was used on handheld devices. Windows 98 was also one of the successful operating system at that time. Then 5 years later, Windows XP, Professional XP or Windows XP, around that came in. A couple of years later, Windows Vista was introduced. Windows Vista, I would say, had a few flaws at the beginning. They tried to fix it, but it was not as successful as Windows 7. Windows 7, which I still use it, I love it. It's a great operating system. I'm simply afraid to go to Windows 8 or 9, in matter of fact. But I heard Windows 10, which was introduced on July 29th, 2015, is one of the greatest operating system that's been introduced by Microsoft. I haven't actually tried that yet, but I do work on Windows 2016 Server, which is quite similar to Windows 10, which is the desktop version. So anyway, these all versions that we are discussing right now, all of them are the Windows desktop version. These are not the Windows server related versions. So let's look at the servers. If we scroll down, you'll see right here it says server versions. So we'll start from the oldest one. So the oldest one was introduced, Windows NT server version, in August 1993. Then a few years later, Windows 2000 Server 3 was introduced, and R2 came along with a few additions to it. That's also one of my favorite operating system, 2003. I have actually worked extensively on 2003, built a lot of DNS servers, Active Directory, Microsoft Exchange servers. A lot of those things or features were added or introduced during that time. Windows 2008 server came in 2008, as it goes by the year. 9, they came up with R2. Now comes to 2012. Now a lot of people actually went straight from 2008 to 2016, where because there are a lot of good features that have been introduced in 2016, but it doesn't mean that 2012 was a failure. It was a good operating system, but 2016 has a lot to offer as well. Now they are working on a beta version on Windows 2019 server. The date is unknown. As it says right here, perhaps it's going to be the fourth quarter of 2018, which is the last 3 months of 2018. We'll see what comes up, what are the new things that have been added to it. So anyway, these are the things that we should know about Windows. If you are learning Windows, then I would say you should really know which version came when and what the different versions out there. If you are working, if you want to become a Linux guy, you should know all the versions and all the different flavors of versions. So just like that, you go to a college, they tell you if you want to learn Windows, they tell you every single thing about Windows before they actually even get into working with Windows operating system. So I'm just picking this up. I'm just putting everything in a very short time, so you should know what are the different versions of Windows out there. Now it's time to look at some of the history of Microsoft. Again, I will say that these are few things that I want you to know, because as if you are in Windows field, you should know who built the Windows. Of course, I'm sure everybody knows Microsoft did, but there are a few things that I think I should refresh your memory. So we'll talk about some of the background and some of the products of Microsoft that they are offering nowadays or have offered in the past. So Windows is owned by, everybody knows, I believe it's owned by Microsoft, right? So Microsoft is co-founded by, I left that as a blank for you to fill, and Paul Allen on April 4th, 1975. So you tell me, who is it founded by? Hmm? Bill Gates, right? That's something everybody knows, that even if you are not a Microsoft or Windows guru, or you have no expertise in Windows, everybody knows that. But so we should also know another partner he had was Paul Allen. They are the one who actually introduced Windows in 1975. So when Microsoft first started the operating system, you know what they came up with? You're probably thinking that Windows GUI environment where you do click, click, click. Not really. They first came up with Microsoft DOS, and this is how the DOS looks like, right? You could see that. You could go to your start menu, you could type CMD as command or full command word, and then hit enter, and this window will pop up. So if I go it now, I'll just hit my window key on my keyboard, and I will type right here CMD. And when I hit enter, you'll see this DOS window is still there if you wanted to run Microsoft Windows, all the commands related stuff. So if you don't want to perform tasks, let's say if you want to copy file or folder, from right clicking it and pasting it, you could use Windows commands, the command line in DOS, to do that for you. So it's not just that you are just bound to the GUIs, you could do that as well. So this is about the DOS. That's when they came out first, and then of course then they came out with Microsoft Windows GUI environment, and that's why it was so successful, because not everybody is so much comfortable with running commands. So when they introduced GUI, everyone in the world was like amazed that they could do so much with computers now. So moving on, let me just click here. Next, I have the Microsoft products. What are the different products out there? Maybe you probably know a few of them, but there might be a few of them that you don't know that they are also owned by Microsoft. And they are innovating every day and every day. So the first thing, of course, is Windows. Windows is the product of Microsoft, followed by some of the software related products are Office. This is one of the best tools. I use it all the time. I use it for my PowerPoint presentation. Even this presentation that I'm doing, it's on Microsoft PowerPoint. Word, you guys know that. Excel, amazing tool to do your calculations, and so much more that are added to the Microsoft Office package. Then they recently came up with Microsoft Azure. Azure is a cloud product that allows you to run your compute When I say compute, meaning your computer-related environment, anything that needs CPU, memory, hard drive, all that stuff, that's called compute. Anything that you need, you don't have to host all those servers local in your own data center. You could just simply go to Microsoft and open up an account with Azure, and you could actually build the servers there. See, now it has become so easy for you. If you wanted to open up your own company as a startup, and you're thinking, hey, I would have to hire a big data center. I have to run few servers there with so much CPU, memory, cabling, hiring people, this and that. Not anymore, guys. Life is becoming easier and easier in terms of technology. So Microsoft has this technology called Azure. Same thing, Amazon also has the same technology for virtualization where you could actually host everything at the Amazon EC2 cloud. Then we have other product of Microsoft. One of them is Microsoft SQL Server. Very good product. People actually have professional in it, professional expertise in just, and they only deal with Microsoft SQL Server, and those people are the database guys. The products is amazing. Their other comparison of the databases are like they're out there, like SQL, sorry, not SQL, Informix database, and there are a few others ones. Then moving on, MSN, you guys have that probably seen so many times. MSN is a website, is owned by Microsoft. If you're using hotmail.com, I still use hotmail.com with my email. That is all Microsoft. Skype, you know how that amazing product is. If you are here, let's say if you are in US and your friend is somewhere in Japan or Australia, you could easily talk to them and see their face through Skype. Very innovative technology. I love it. I love it. Then Microsoft Visio, amazing product which allows you to actually design and create diagrams of your data center, your computers, or your even your house, anything that you wanted to do with Visio. SharePoint, very good software by Microsoft. Then Microsoft Exchange. A lot of people use Microsoft Exchange as their email server, which has been there and it's been so successful. A lot of companies use Microsoft Exchange. Active Directory, amazing product. What it does, it actually creates and manages your user accounts as one central place. And we'll talk about that later as well. Then moving on to the hardware side, nowadays they're coming up with Surface, the laptops. They're building their own hardware now. So Surface is one of their hardware they're coming up with. Xbox, boom, boom, boom. Love that. A lot of games. My nephew loved this Xbox. Actually, he is on Xbox all the time. And I'm sure every kid out there, even adults, they have mature rated games. Amazing things you could do with Xbox. It's a platform where you could have actually add games to it. I believe a lot of times now you could actually play games with each other online. Then we have Windows Phone. That is, I don't know if it was been so much successful yet or not, but the Windows Phone are out there. I don't have one. Maybe someone who has used it probably would know more about it. But anyway, these are a few items that I have listed that are the products of Microsoft. If you really wanted to know every single product of Microsoft, you could just go ahead and type on search online and type Microsoft products and you'll see tons of products. Well, in this lesson, you do need to know all those products that are supported by Microsoft. So this way, if you are out in the field, if you know that, oh, you are dealing with SharePoint, oh, okay, so this is related to Microsoft. If there's an issue with Active Directory, you're not picking up and calling Red Hat, right? So these are a few things that you should know about, who owns what. That's why I'm bringing this lesson to this training course. Let's look at Windows market share. When I say market share, I mean by how many people in the world, in this entire world, uses Microsoft Windows as compared to other operating systems. Now keep in mind, this chart that I'm going to show you, it is based on the desktop environment. And I'm sure if you know what a desktop environment is as opposed to server environment. Desktop environment, if you don't know, anybody who uses a computer at home for personal use, that's a desktop environment. Even if you are at work and you are using a computer operating system to do everyday work, that is also a desktop environment. Servers, whereas the servers are concerned, they only deal with specific application to run. They don't care about little programs or games or calculators or stuff like that that you need to run on the server. So anyway, let's get into it, and I'm going to show you the market share of Microsoft Windows. Okay, as you could see right here in front of you, this is the chart that I got it from a worldwide OS market share website. It's from January 2017. If you want to get the latest one, whichever the year you are in or month you're in, you could simply type Microsoft Windows market share 2018, 19, 20, 20, 21. Anyway, Windows has 91.41% market share. Wow. As compared to Linux, which is 2.27, Mac 6.32. And if you want to actually go more into detail of Windows different operating system versions, what are the different ones, you will see on the right hand side, you'll see all the different operating system. And Windows 7, as you could see, it was one of the successful and most amazing. I love it. Windows 7 that's still used, I still use, a lot of people still use, has the most market share within Windows versions. Okay, so now you see this chart, right? Now again, I'm saying keep that in mind. This entire purple thing is Windows desktop environment where people use at home, even at work, to do everyday daily tasks. This has nothing to do with the server or corporate level application environment. Mac, a lot of people use Mac 6.32. Okay, amazing 6.32. Still a lot good. You use that, people use that mostly for graphical related applications. Linux, now Linux is, you probably heard, Linux isn't that the server type of operating system? Yes, mostly it is, but there are Linux desktops as well. One of the leading desktop of Linux flavor is Ubuntu. People use Ubuntu as their desktop environment a lot of times. Now, there's another one, Fedora. There's another one, SUSE. But anyway, those are the different platform or flavors of Linux that can be used for desktop. Of course, we cannot win against Windows for it, but still there are a few of them. But if you wanted to flip this whole thing compared to the servers, then I'll tell you, Linux or Unix out there has a lot more bigger market share on the server side than Windows. Anyway, if you want to know more about how you could distinguish between each operating system market shares, and if you want to learn more, be my guest, go ahead, find out online. Okay, let's cover Windows versus Linux versus Mac. What are the differences are out there? Maybe you probably know a lot of them yourself, but there might be a few of them that I do want to cover really quick. Now, as you know, with almost 90% of the operating system market share, you can't miss Windows, right? It is in commercial building, industrial facilities, as well as home computers. Well, Windows, having been introduced in 1985, it is very mature and complete piece of software. Yes, but yes, as I said, it has flaws too. But before we get into the flaws, let's look at the pros, the advantages. Well, first thing I would say, the compatibility. Almost every application, driver, or game will work on Windows. Amazing, right? Then we have technical problems. Every time there are any software, there are issues with it, right? So technical support is so much available, meaning having so many users in the world, you can always find someone either online or offline who can help you with Windows. You could just search something and you're going to find a lot of articles. And then easy. It is user friendly, meaning it has a GUI. You could simply, even if a person never used Windows before, they could, by just setting it for an hour, they will figure it out how easy it is. Now let's get into some of the flaws of Windows. Viruses, yes, that is something that we cannot get away. You may need to buy antivirus programs. Although free ones exist, but you probably have to pay for it because your Windows machine face the internet a lot of times, and there are a lot of viruses out there. And what happened is a lot of viruses get in, the Windows gets slow. You've probably seen so many times when you are trying to multitask something in Windows, you see an hourglass or something that's spinning and spinning and spinning, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting. Especially in Windows Vista, so much issues it was out there with Windows. But anyway, that's one of the problem with Windows, and of course price. Windows is expensive as compared to Linux or Mac. Now moving on to Mac. Now Mac, which is owned by Apple, Macintosh operating system is an even older than Windows. It is the first ever successful graphical based operating system, being released 1 year before its Microsoft counterpart. Did you know that? Well, that's something now you it's in your knowledge base now. Now let's look at some of the advantages. Viruses, it's virus free. Yes, not Microsoft, Apple Mac gets almost no viruses. This is mostly due to Windows' superior market share. Um, you know how it is. Windows has a huge market, and of course, when you compare the statistics, and then of course, then the statistics will show a bigger number on Windows side. Then reliability. Macs only run on Apple computers, and they are thus less prone to hardware and software crashing. So you cannot run Mac operating system on, let's say, a Dell machine or a Samsung machine. You only run that on Apple's own hardware. Then we have graphical designing. This product is great for professional graphical designing, such as if you are an architect, engineer, in construction working, web designing, planning, aircraft designing, car designing, any kind of designing. This product is amazing. Mac operating system is amazing. Now let's look at the downfall, the disadvantages of Mac. Of course, it is expensive. You have to buy the Apple hardware with the Mac operating system. It gets costlier. And of course, it is available only in Apple. So there was advantages for it, but the disadvantages is, since being it's only available in Apple, you're stuck with it. You cannot change from one hardware to another hardware. Then we have compatibility issue. Only a few programs will run on Mac, and almost no games. So as compared to, of course, Windows has so many programs that you could run onto. Okay, let's talk about Linux. I have worked with Linux so much. I could tell you so many things about Linux, and I'll give you all the advantage of Linux if you want to stay with me all night. Anyway, Linux is an answer to Mac and Windows, I'll say. Yes, this means that Linux is free. Free. You can download, modify, and redistribute it without spending a dime. Linux is a younger player in the OS world. Yes, it came late, having been written in 1991 and is optimized for modern use. Well, more than Windows and Mac. Unfortunately, it has some disadvantages as well that we will talk about. Now, when I say Linux is younger player, but don't think that Linux, isn't that it came in with Bell Labs, but that was Unix. So anyway, we could get into Unix as well, but let's focus on Linux this time. So first of all, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. You could download most of the Linux flavors free online, except a few of them like Red Hat. You would have to pay, but you don't have to pay for the software. You would have to pay for the support. It's open source, meaning you could get the source code from anywhere. You could change it and you could modify it according to your requirement. No virus, amazing. It has no viruses at all. No need to download any software. Let's talk about the cons, the disadvantages. It is complicated, yes. You need to know the command line to run Linux. Most of the programs, because that's why most of the enterprise level programs they run on Linux, because they don't deal with graphical interfaces. They just want to get things done, and that's why Linux is picked over Windows or Mac. Then let's talk about compatibility. Yes, we have compatibility issues just like Mac. Only few programs run. Not every program that is available out there online that is compatible, just like in Windows, that is compatible for Linux. Not a lot of them. And then vendors, you won't find a lot of vendors selling Linux computers, meaning you cannot go on Best Buy or any of the retail store selling electronics and tell you, hey, here is the laptop that has a Linux operating system installed already for you. There are very few of them, maybe perhaps online retailers, some of them probably selling it, but not a lot of them. Anyway, these are very few advantages and disadvantages that I have covered in Windows, Linux, and Mac. I am sure you probably know a lot of them. But the point is, we're not covering every one of them, but we are covering the basic ones. So you should know, or if you are getting into Windows, you need to know all these advantages and disadvantages. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Module 2 about lab setup. What exactly are we going to do in this module? Well, there are a few steps that we'll take to set up our lab environment. So we need to actually have Windows. So you could either actually have a Windows completely brand new installed directly on your physical machine, and you could remove your older operating system if you want to do that, or you could install a virtual box and then install on top of that, you can install your virtual Windows machine. So this is what we're going to do in this lab setup. First, we'll cover what virtual environment is, how it works as opposed to the physical systems. Then we'll download and do the installation of Oracle VirtualBox. Once we have the finished installation and configuration done of the VirtualBox, then we will create our first virtual machine, as if you are actually going to be on the assembly line, where you will be adding CPU, memory, disk space, and everything to your own requirement. So this is what about the lab setup, about this module. So let's cover it one by one. What is Oracle VirtualBox? And of course, why do we need to know about VirtualBox? Well, for this course, you do need to install Windows operating system on your computer, and there are two ways you could install it. One, you could remove the existing operating system that you have on your computer, or you could install VirtualBox on top of your existing Windows operating system or Mac, and then you could install Windows operating system. This way you won't lose anything. So basically, VirtualBox is a free and open source hypervisor for x86 computers currently being developed by Oracle Corporation. It installs on your existing Intel or AMD based computers, whether they are running Windows, Mac, Linux, or Solaris. It extends the capabilities of your existing computer so that it can run multiple operating systems on one hardware at the same time. Let's see how it works. So you have the hardware layer, and then on top of it you install the operating system. Of course, it could be any one you have, that is Windows or Mac, and then you install Oracle VirtualBox. It's just a program, a software that you install on your machine like any other software that you would install. Once you have installed Oracle VirtualBox, then you could install Linux on it as a separate small version of operating system. You could have Windows on it, or you could have Mac on it. So this VirtualBox allows you to have multiple operating system on a same hardware. In this lesson, we will cover the Oracle VirtualBox download and its installation. First of all, you would have to go to Google and type Oracle VirtualBox download. And then the first link you'll see here, go to download. If your operating system is Windows, you will click on Windows host. Once you click on it, it will ask you to save the file. I can save the file, but since it takes some time, I have already saved the file previously to save some time. This is the file, the executable file that's been saved. Run. Click next. Leave everything default setting. Create a start menu entry. You could leave that. Create a shortcut on your desktop, that's fine. Create a shortcut in a quick launch bar, I don't like that. And register file association, you could leave that. Network and installing the Oracle VirtualBox and network feature will reset your network adapter connection temporarily. That's fine. Proceed and install. Do you want to allow the following program to run? Install the software? Yes. Would you like to install this device software from Oracle? Yes. If you notice quickly, this created a quick desktop shortcut on your desktop. It is trying to install another device software. That's fine. Click install. I'm just gonna say always trust anything that's coming from Oracle Corporation and just click on install. So this way it's not gonna bother me again. And there you go. Oracle VM VirtualBox installation is complete. Click Start Oracle VirtualBox after the installation. Yes, you could leave that checkbox. Click Finish. And let's cancel this. And there you go. That's the first welcome page of the VirtualBox. And that's where we have actually completed the installation of the VirtualBox. From here on, you could create a new virtual machine, and once we create a new virtual machine, we will install Linux CentOS operating system on that virtual machine. Now it's time to create a virtual machine. Now the virtual machine, think of as a computer that does not have an operating system. So you order a computer to Dell website or HP website. If you are customizing it, you add your memory, your CPU, and then in the back end, the Dell or HP or whoever the manufacturer is, they actually build that on assembly line by adding memory, CPU, hard disk, and all that peripherals inside a computer that needed to run a computer. So it wouldn't have an operating system yet, but in reality, you order a computer, you get a computer with an operating system. But now we are thinking that it does not have an operating system, so we're going to build a computer from scratch and then install the operating system on it. So we'll create a virtual machine on an Oracle VirtualBox platform. So let me go and double click on our Oracle VirtualBox. I have it already open. So once you open up this Oracle VirtualBox, this window will open up. Now I already have one virtual machine created earlier. It was just testing purposes, so you could just disregard. You're probably not going to see this if you are doing it for the first time. So go ahead and click New. And now this time, I want you to select a name of your machine. This is just a name that will be used or remembered by Oracle VirtualBox. This will not be the host name of your operating system. So I will go ahead and select lab Windows. Type Microsoft Windows version 7. So drop down and select Windows 2016 64-bit. Now, if you do not see 64-bit or if you see 32-bit, then you would have to enable the virtualization technology on your laptop or your PC. And you could enable it and it will change it to 64 only if you have or your computer is 64 operating system. So how do you change it? I have attached an article that will help you or guide you through to changing that setting in the BIOS, and then you reboot it, and then you create a new virtual machine, and it will show up as 64-bit. So now go ahead and click Next. By default, it's asking me to create a memory of 2 gig. We will leave that as default 2 gig of memory. Click Next. It's asking to create a virtual disk. So click Create. The default is VDI because we are running this virtual machine on the Oracle VirtualBox, so leave that default. Click Next. Dynamically allocated, leave as default as well. Click Next. Okay, so once you are on this screen where it requires you to select the size of your disk, by default it is going to pick the 50 gig. You could change it if you want to, but I would say just leave it. Windows take a little longer, a little larger space to have a disk. So just click on Create. Once that is created, you will see you have your new machine that will show up right here. If you want to modify some of the resource setting, you could always do that by clicking on Setting. And then you could change the description right here, the one we picked earlier. You could change the type and version in advanced setting. You could also change where it is actually going to save the snapshot. Any description you want to add, any encryption to it, the system, what are the system floppy disk, optical disk that are added to this virtual machine. If you want to change the memory, you could change it here. And if you want to change the processor, you could come back here. Right now the processor is by default is set up to 1 vCPU. You could change it if you want to. And so on the other settings that you would probably have to make, you can make it right here. So if you want your machine, the Windows machine, to have internet access, so you could just click on bridged adapter and then you could pick what you have actually come up. Right now it has Broadcom NetExtreme, which is the network adapter name of my PC, so it has selected that by default. Excuse me. So I will leave that as default. If I wanted to add more network adapters, I could do that. I have the option until 4 adapters. I'll just have to click here, enable network adapters, and it will add a new network adapter. Anyway, so just go ahead and click OK, and now you'll see your machine, your machine been through an assembly line. You added the CPU, you added memory, you added everything to it, and now it is like an empty machine. The next step from here is that you would have to do an operating system installation, and that's what we'll cover later. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how you could download Windows 2016 image on your computer. This is going to be a 180 evaluation license that Microsoft allows you to download, install, and if you are doing some testing, or if you wanted to see how it is, if it is something worth buying later on, so they give you that 180 days. So I would definitely recommend you that you use it for only 180 days, and if you don't want to use it after that, please discard from your system. So let's go open up our browser and type technet.microsoft.com. Hit enter. This will bring you to the technet.microsoft.com web page that has all the downloads or troubleshooting tips that Microsoft has to offer. Go ahead and click on Downloads. And then the second link, Try Product on Microsoft Evaluation Center. Then scroll down and click on Windows Server under Checkout Latest Product. Once you click on it, it will open up another frame at the bottom and click on Windows Server 2016. So now it brought you to the page where it says Windows Server 2016 evaluation 180 days. Start your evaluation, so click on the ISO image and click continue. Now you have to put in your first name, your last name, your organization. You could type in your organization as home, eval, your email address, your phone number, and the country. So if you are not in the United States, you could pick your country and your region, whichever region you are in, and then click continue. Once you click continue, it will ask you to select your language, pick your preferred language, and click download. Now this is going to download the ISO image for Microsoft Windows Server 2016 Data Center Eval. This is going to take about 48 minutes to an hour depending on your computer speed. So once you have it downloaded on your computer, then we could attach that ISO image to our virtual machine and start doing the installation of the operating system. Okay, now it's the time to get into some real fun. And fun is that we will do the Windows installation. We have already downloaded the ISO image for Windows from Microsoft website. We already have that saved. Now we are going to start up our VirtualBox and attach that ISO image to our virtual machine, and we'll do the installation. So let's get ready. So I will go straight into my start menu and I'll click on Oracle Virtual VM VirtualBox. Okay, it will start up, and as you can see, I have two VMs already there. One is for my Linux and the second one is for my Windows. Now our focus is the Windows one, so we'll go ahead and click on Start. Okay, as soon as you start, since this virtual machine has no operating system, it will ask you, please select a virtual optical disk file or physical optical drive containing a disk to start your new virtual machine from. And some more information, but anyway, you could read it. But if you have a DVD, actually a real DVD inserted into your PC, then you could select the D drive and it will pick it up, the ISO image. But since we downloaded it from the website, we have a file saved. So we'll click on this little folder and we'll go into our image. So let me do the list view so you'll see it. One of the ISO image, I have Linux CentOS, and the other one is this Windows Server 2016 Data Center Eval. This is the one we are going to pick for our installation. So we'll double click here, and this is going to attach that. Now I have something in the back. It says creating process for virtual machine lab Windows. Okay, let it be. Now let's click Start. So as soon as we picked up the ISO image, it was trying to attach that file in the background. That's what the message was about. Now as soon as you start your Windows installation, you'll see first of all these two top messages that you'll see. It's actually telling you have auto captured keyboard option turned on. This will cause the virtual machine to automatically capture the keyboard every time the window VM is activated and make it unavailable to. Anyway, you could read more about it. So basically what it's saying is keyboard and mouse pointer is every time you are coming inside of this window, your mouse and keyboard will be captured. If you want to go outside, you see I cannot go outside of this. To do that, to release your mouse or keyboard, you would have to type the control key, which is on the right hand side control key of your keyboard. If you notice, you have two control keys. One is on the left and one is on the right of your keyboard. So always press the right control key to exit out from this window. Anyway, since we are working here, we'll just leave it as is. Let's get into our 2016 installation. I'll go ahead and close this out. The language to install: English United States. If you are in a different region, you could pick accordingly. Time and currency format: English United States. Keyboard or input method: the US. Again, you could pick any of these according to your region requirement. Go ahead and click next. And basically it gives you two options. One is to install now, and the second one is to repair your computer. You would need this repair your computer when you have some issues with your Windows machine, meaning your Windows machine corrupted or something went wrong, or you maybe need to recover your administrative password, rescue your operating system, all of those. Then you would have to actually repair your computer. You'll pick that option. So for now, we'll go ahead and click on install now. Now basically at this time it is actually picking all the packages that are associated with this ISO image that we have downloaded. Okay, so the first one is giving us the standard evaluation. Second one is standard evaluation desktop experience, which will also have some of the desktop features. Windows 2016 Data Center Evaluation and Windows 2016 Data Center Evaluation Desktop Experience. So the standard one is very simple one, probably not going to have a lot of packages with it. You cannot probably run Active Directory or DNS or those advanced feature. Desktop Experience is some of the desktop GUI type of programs that comes with it. If you pick this one, we are going to pick the one that has pretty much everything. Also, it tells you at the bottom is this option is useful when a GUI is required. For example, to provide backward compatibility for an application that cannot be run on a server core installation. All server roles and features are supported. See, server features roles are supported, meaning if you wanted to actually, after going through the Windows installation, if you wanted to set up this Windows machine as an Active Directory or DNS or any of the features that we'll cover later, then you will, all those are available with this data center evaluation. So if you are in a corporate environment, I would say 99% of the time you will be picking this data center evaluation, because we are actually going to do the installation of the server level. Go ahead and click next. Okay, this is the license acceptance page. You could read it. It's pretty long, but some of the important information, some of the updated information, the versions and software, what is included, was not. And if you accept it, go ahead and click on this check mark and click next. Okay, which type of installation do you want? First one, upgrade, install Windows and keep files, setting and application. The files, settings and applications are moved to Windows with this option. This option is only available when a supported version of Windows is already running on this computer. Do we have an Windows operating system already running on this computer? No, right? So we are not going to pick the upgraded option. Second option, custom, install Windows only, advanced. The files, settings, and applications aren't moved to Windows with this option. Okay. If you want to make changes to the partition and drive, start the computer using the installation disk. We recommend backing up your files before you continue. It is always a good idea that you should read everything. Now, I know a lot of time people are in a rush, they want to skip through it, go fast, click, 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 and done. But it is better you should read it instead of wasting time later on trying to fix issue and then find out, uh-oh, we picked the wrong option. Anyway, so go ahead and click on this second one. On this page, it's saying, do you want to install Windows on this disk space? This is the disk space that we carved out. We dedicated that much 50 gig of disk space for this virtual machine, and that's what the Windows is picking up for you. Now you could also partition that into different drives, meaning you could click on new and you could create a C drive for 30 gig, 10 gig of drive for F, another 10 gig of for G. If you have any kind of application requirement that wants you to partition your disk into a different map drive, then you will pick this option to click new, and you will go ahead and go through the wizard to carve out that partition. Well, in this lab, we will leave everything under C drive, so we'll just click on this one and click next. Okay, perfect. Now the installation has begun. It is just that simple. I know if you are doing for the first time, you probably have to go through every wizard, every instruction that I went through. If you are doing if you have done a few times in the past, then you're probably skipping through it and flying through it. But again, as I said previously, that every time an upgraded version of Windows comes in, and you probably think, hey, I had done Windows before, I'll just skip through it. But it's always a good idea, guys, that you go through it, read everything that is shown on your screen. Okay, so first thing it's going to do is going to copy Windows file. What it means is it is going to take everything from the disk and it is going to put that into that 50 gig of drive. Once all those things, all those files, required files are copied, then it is going to download or do the installation of those files. It will run the executable, which will allow it to install that Microsoft Windows operating system on your disk. And that's what it is doing right now. It is at 16%. The next step it will do is it will install the features that we have asked during our those two different options. It will add the needed ones. It will install the updates. If your computer is connected to the internet while you are doing this installation, it will go online and it will install the updates. But if your computer does not have internet access at this time while you are doing the installation, then you don't have to worry about it. It will go out anyway. It will try it and it will fail. It can't find the server, Microsoft Update server. It will fail. But anyway, installing updates and not connecting to the installations, the update server, is not going to fail your Windows installation. And the last one, finishing up, which it will do all the post provisioning. If you have if you wanted to do some kind of pre-configuration, post-configuration, meaning assigning IP, assigning host name, that type of work could also be done with the automation tools. There are a lot of automation tools that are out there. But anyway, for our lab, we are not doing anything. We will do manually all the post configuration, meaning assigning the IP if there is a static IP, assigning the host name, or checking all the things. Anyway, I am actually going to fast forward from this point on until it finishes the entire installation. I don't want to waste your time. Let's do a fast forward from here, and once it's completed, then we'll pick it up from there. Awesome. So the installation has been completed. It is going through the restart. So Windows is going to reboot. All right, we are at the point where we have to specify a password for our administrator. Try to remember that password. If you lose it, you're probably gonna have to boot your machine on a single user mode, and then go through the repair thing. Anyway, so now we have this Windows installation successfully completed. If you guys are at this point, I will tell you that congratulations, you should pat your back because you have done an amazing job. This is your first time installation. If you are doing the first time, awesome job, and you did not go through any problem and installation was smooth, then awesome. So now you need to do Alt Control Delete. See, press Alt Control Delete to unlock. You go into Input and type keyboard. Click on keyboard and put in Insert Control Alt Delete, and it will send the Control Alt Delete inside of your machine. Looks like it didn't work. Let me try again. Okay, finally took it. Okay, now I will put in the password. Welcome. All right, we are at the desktop screen with all the information that we need in Windows 2016 server. This is basically what you see. You don't see my computer icon, but you mostly are used to seeing that my computer. You only see a recycling bin. If you wanted to go to my computer, you could go to this Windows icon, start menu, and then you will see all the programs under it. See, first it's gonna run the server manager, and that is something we'll cover later on anyway. So this is how you do the installation. Congratulations once again, guys, and now you could try to see what other things that you could play around with. Host name and system information. Now we have our system built. Now we wanted to cover how can we change your system operating system host name. um, every time you build a new system, the system should have a name, and it should have an IP if it is not DHCP. But since our VM Windows machine runs as a DHCP IP, it already has that. So now we need to work on changing its host name. So host name can be identified to its server. Then we will check the system information, meaning the system that we built, which is a Windows, how much resources we have, how can we check that, what are the different ways we could check that, and why that is so important for us to check that, right? That's the main question. And of course, the reason we need to check that is because if you're running application and it's running slow, you need to know what's going on. So these are the couple of things that we will cover in this lesson. So let me log into my Windows machine. Okay, I have um, the Windows machine console open. Now, if I go down, if you have a bigger screen where you are doing your installation and you could see your lab Windows VM, you're probably not going to have to scroll up, scroll down like what I'm doing. You probably have the entire desktop as showing up as one window. But since my display is the resolution and the display is not that enhanced, so I have to scroll up and scroll down. Anyway, so the first time when you log in, the first thing comes up is your server manager, which is this. Every time you will log in, you will get that. Because if you wanted to add roles and features and other services to this machine, you could do it from here. But that is something, this dashboard is something that we will cover in later lessons. For now, I will just tell you that how can you just disable the server manager to pop up every time you log into your machine or every time you reboot your machine. I know it kind of gets a little annoying. For me, it especially does. So what I do is I go to Manage and I click on Server Manager Properties. And right here you'll see do not start Server Manager automatically at login. So I will check this. The other one is specify the Server Manager data refresh period in every 10 minutes, meaning that this data information on the dashboard will refresh every 10 minutes. Anyway, you want to check on this, so this way the Server Manager dashboard does not show up every time you log in. I'll go ahead and click OK. Now the first thing I wanted to do is before we change the host name, because once you change the host name, you would actually have to reboot your Windows machine for the host name changes to be affected. So first thing we'll do is we'll check the system information. And the way that I prefer to check the CPU memory two ways. One is I'll go into my search bar and I will type my computer the old ways that we always has my computer, right? So when you type in the search my computer, this computer, which is my computer used to be, now they call it this computer, then you right click on it and click on properties. Then you will see the properties window appears or opens up. This is the main window where you will know how much resources you have in your virtual machine operating system, which is Windows Server 2016 Data Center Evaluation. Now every time you log into a Windows machine and you need to check the version, this is where you will come to check what version we are running. The processor, the speed of the processor. The installed memory is 3 gig. I increased it to 3 gig so I will have a better performance. The system type is 64-bit system, x64 based processor. Intel is the processor. Why? Because this is the processor of my own computer where I am running my virtual box. Then you will see right below it I have computer name, computer full name, and if I wanted to put a description, the work group, if I wanted to have this computer join my domain or the Active Directory, which again we'll cover later on. Windows is activated. Yes, it is activated. This is the license terms that we have accepted during the installation. If we want to purchase Windows 2016 Server license, then instead of 180 days where it will actually lock the computer, it will actually let you run Windows 2016 as well. To do that is that of course you purchase the key and you come in here and click on change product key and you enter the new product key into it, save it, and it will take the new changes. And of course then you could run a legal copy of Windows 2000 Server 2016. Anyway, so this is the one way I was telling you how you could check system properties. But if you wanted to be more specific about how many CPU you have, you see right now you only see the speed, but it doesn't tell you you have 2 CPU, 4 CPU, or 6 CPU, or whatever the number of CPU. You do get the installed memory is 3 gig. For that, you go to your task manager right here. This is the task manager. You right click to it and click on task manager. Then you come to this task manager window. You go straight to performance. There are other stuff that I will cover later on, but for this one, go to performance and you see your CPU performance. But right now still I don't see the number of CPU. Here it tells you the socket is 1 and core is 3. Perfect. But if you want to see each CPU performance, how it is doing, you click on Open Resource Monitor and then you click on CPU and you will see right here all your CPUs are listed. CPU 1, CPU 2, CPU 0, 1, and 2, which is like altogether 3, and each CPU performance. That's where you could check your CPU information. And memory is right here, how much memory I have installed. I have 3 gig, 3071. Total is this. Cache is 746, and available for my programs to run is 2190 megabytes. If I run other programs, of course, available will go down. It will be used for that new program. So these are one way to check your system information. Another way that you could check your system information is through the command line. Most of the command line that you could run is you could type it right here on the search windows. So what I will do is I will either do CMD to open up my command prompt, which is the DOS right here. This is the DOS window, or I could just simply type in the search, and I'll type system info, and when I hit enter, it will actually load fix the system information, but it closed the window. Why? Because it ran the script and it closed it. So for me to actually leave it on the screen is that I would have to run it from the command line. And the command line, again, to open up your DOS prompt, you type CMD. You hit enter, and the DOS prompt opens up. Now you type here system info. Just that. This is the command. You hit enter. This is the CLI command line. If you are familiar with the Linux command line, you probably noticed that there are command lines just like that. Windows also have command lines. You could run it. So now you could see here, if you go up, you'll see all the information about your computer. The name, the Microsoft version, version number, what is it, how many CPU it has. If you go down, you'll see right here there are total 3 gig of physical memory and CPU information right here below it, and the cards and everything, all the information is listed right here. So this is the second way you could check your system information. Now this is about the system information. Now let's go into changing our host name. This is one of the things you really have to do every time you build your new computer, regardless of what operating system, whether you are building a Linux machine, Mac, or Windows. You have to assign or give it a host name. And what host name you could give? Well, it all depends on with your company, what are the host name standards they have, and you just follow the standards. So now for this, I'll just give it the same name as I had my virtual machine name. My virtual machine name is Lab Windows, so I'll give it the same name. Anyway, this is the lab description, computer description. It's not the host name. So I'll just copy. And right here it says to rename this computer or change its domain or work group, click change. Okay, I'll go ahead and change. Now I will type in or paste my computer name. Perfect. So now it is changed. I'll click OK. And now it is applying, and it says you must restart your computer to apply these changes. Before restarting, save any open files and close all programs. Of course, as I said, always read the message. Do not just go ahead and click OK. So now you're ready to click OK. Now click apply. Again, it says changes will take effect after you restart this computer. Go ahead and click apply, restart now, yes. So now once the machine reboots and it comes back online, you log in and you will see your machine has a new host name. That's how these are the couple of topics that we wanted to cover, and this section is how to change the host name and how to check system information. What are the different ways to install an operating system? Well, there are many different ways, but the most common ways I'm going to cover, there are three most common ways. And the first one is through the CD or DVD. Now, you have a CD or DVD of an operating system, whether it's Linux, Windows, or Mac. The installation procedure of installing an operating system is the same. So the first one is you pop the tray out of your computer, whether it's a server or laptop or workstation. You pop the CD-ROM drive out, insert the CD in, and then boot from CD. Now this is the most common way, and once the CD is installed, inserted, the installation program begins. The second way is through the ISO image. You install and or you actually download the image from the vendor website. Let's say if you're installing Red Hat, CentOS, Windows, you go to Red Hat website or you go to Microsoft website, you download the ISO image, you attach that ISO image to the virtual disk of your computer. Now, how do you access the virtual disk? Every computer has a console access. For example, Dell has iDrag, HP has ILO, and so on. So there are many different manufacturers have their different way of accessing their console. Once you access the console, you could attach this ISO image as a virtual disk and start the installation. In our lesson, this is what we will be following. The third method is the network boot. This is also common in bigger organizations where they are building hundreds of computers, installing operating systems, hundreds of them a day. That's when you need a network boot. Basically, you tell your computer to go to a specific IP and a specific folder that is being shared by a shared server that could be either NFS server or Samba server that attaches that file. You give an IP address and then you do the network boot. So these are the three common ways to do the operating system installation. And again, for our lesson, we will be covering the second one, which is the ISO download. We have already downloaded it, and we will attach that ISO to our virtual environment and do the installation. Windows Server GUI overview. This is the lesson where I will cover primarily the GUI functionality of the Windows, where you will find most of your tools, your features, your roles, how you could change the desktop settings. So, a few of the things that I'll cover are as follow. First thing is about desktop. I will tell you exactly how you could change the desktop, how you could organize your icons, resize them, change the setting. Then we'll go into the start menu. We have a start menu there, which looks a little different than a regular start that you are used to, and we'll cover what are the programs that are added to the start menu. Then taskbar, which is at the bottom. Every time you start a program, it shows up at the taskbar, and how we could close a program or check other programs, statistics or resource usage through the taskbar. Then the search bar, which is also part of the start menu, but I have included as a separate because a lot of times you could run commands through the search bar, so this way you don't have to actually go through the entire start menu. Anyway, so let's log into our Windows server, and I have the GUI open right here. And as I have mentioned, the first thing I want to cover is the desktop. So you have seen the desktop right here. For the first time you build your system, this is the desktop looks like. You scroll down, you will see at the bottom, this is the taskbar. These are the quick launch programs. You could get rid of it by right clicking on it, and you could simply say unpin from taskbar if you want to. You could change the time. Right here you see the time is showing 3:51 p.m. But if you wanted to change it, all you have to do is click on it, and you could let me move this down to right here, and you could go ahead and click right here and change the time and date and time setting. Whatever the time that is in your region, you pick that region. Whatever the time zone you have, Pacific time or GMT time or Eastern time or whatever time format that you follow, you could change it right here. Same thing goes with region and speech and other related time setting. So these are all the settings that you have down here. Then you have this this is the audio service. This is speaker of your computer. If you want to enable it or disable it, you could change it. This is the icon that shows your computer is connected to the network. Right now, my VM machine is connected to the Ethernet cable because my PC is actually connected to the cable. So that's why it shows right here. I'll cover that the networking part more in detail later on in the later lessons. But for this one, it's just about your GUI experience. So you'll notice you have only one icon on your desktop. This is your desktop. It used to be like 4 or 5 icons like my computer, networking, control panel, recycle bin. So now they have changed it. They only give you one icon, which is a recycle bin. You could resize that icon by right clicking on the desktop and click on view, and you could change to small, medium, or large icon. I prefer small icons, so I'll change it to small icon. So now if you want to have other icons added as well as you had previously that you are used to, some people like it. If they want to keep the if they want to have the consistency, then what you could do is you could do a right click, go to personalize, and then click on themes, then click on desktop icons, desktop icon setting actually, and then from here you could pick all the icons that you want to have added to your desktop. For me, I'll just pick my computer and network, and if I want to pick control panel, that's fine. You can pick control panel as well and click on apply and click OK, and you will see all these icons are showing up now. If you wanted to arrange it through any order, like sort by name, size, item type, date modifier, you could do it again by right clicking on your desktop. Now if you wanted to go back to personalized setting, and if you wanted to make change to the other settings, you could also do a lot of other settings. Like if you wanted to change the background, you wanted to change it to a different background, different wallpaper, you could pick any of those. Like if you wanted to change it to this one, you could just simply click on it. Right now it is okay, so I clicked on it, it took a little bit longer, that's why. Anyway, so shows a different wallpaper in the background. You see it changed it. I like to keep it Windows 1. I'll keep the Windows 1, so I'll change it back. And of course you have choose to fit, fill, change, stretch, and center, and different ways you could try it out. Then the color schemes, if you want a different color, right now you see it's showing blue, you could change it to orange if you like. That's for the start menu. You see right here it shows up the start menu, but I'll go back to our blue scheme. Then we have the lock screen. When my computer is locked, it will show this screen. You could change it. You could also change it, set it to your own default value. If you wanted to put your own picture, or if you wanted to put your family picture, a lot of people do that. Then what you have to do, of course, copy that picture over to your computer and go to browse and pick that picture. And then once you click on the browse, it will give you the option to select where your file is located. So see, it came up, and most likely you will have your pictures saved on your desktop. You click on desktop, you pick your picture, you click on choose picture, and it will show up whenever your computer is locked. Themes, we just went over it. If you want to go into the advanced sound settings, mouse pointing setting, if you want to change the mouse, right now it's a default setting for the mouse. I like it. I like to keep it that way. Also, sometimes people, when they hover over to the link like that, they have the hand. It changes to the hand. But if you wanted to change it to something else, you can also do it. Start menu, if you want to make changes to the start menu. Taskbar, lock the taskbar on, meaning it will stay down there, it will show up all the time. If you do not want it to show, you want a clean desktop environment, you could turn it off. There are a lot of other features that are available with the taskbar. So these are about the settings of your desktop. You also have display setting, which you could change the apps, how the app are going to show up. Are they going to show up by the sort them by the name? You have power and sleep, meaning if you wanted to have when plugged in, turn off after 10 minutes. So if I don't touch my computer, it will sleep. It will put my computer to sleep after 10 minutes. If you want to make that changes to whatever the time, you could pick that time. I would recommend you that you go over every one of these settings one by one and find out exactly what needs to be done here. Because if you are getting into Windows environment, or if you are trying to find a job in Windows, or if you already are in Windows and just trying to improve your already Windows skills, then you should spend some time by going over on every setting. So this way, if you are troubleshooting any of these related issues, it will be much simpler for you to go and find it. Tablet mode, if you have this machine into tablet mode, you could convert that. Multitasking app or websites about what are the about tells you about the versions and the system information, and anything that you are looking for that you can't find it here. You could also click on find a setting and type anything you want. Let's say if I wanted to do multitasking, of course, I could see the multitasking right now, but if it is hidden inside of one of these settings, then it will not show up. So it's better that you just type it. So I don't know why it's taking too long, but anyway, I think you got the point. Anyway, so let's close the window. So again, do a right click if you wanted to create files and folders, refresh the screen, and pretty much this is about our desktop. So this covers our desktop, and then next one we have is start menu. When you go down here, you'll see this window icon. Now, back in the days when the older versions of Windows, they had the start menu that actually reads start. So you would just click on it, or it would show like a button which would have a Windows logo on it. But now they've changed it. But anyway, you could just simply click on it, and you will see it opens up a lot bigger menu than it used to be. It used to be just on the left hand side, but now it shows up on kind of like two different panes. So first one is the first time you open up, it will show you anything that is mostly used. If you want to search something, server manager, that is one of the main I would say tool in Windows that allows you to do a lot of feature additions, role additions that we'll go over again later. Of course, there are different settings that we just went over. Any programs that you're looking for that are added afterwards that could be found here as well. If you go down, if you go back up, you'll see there is this three lines up here. You can also click on it and you will see it opens up another start with a setting like administrator, the settings itself, the power setting. You could click on power if you wanted to shut down or reboot. But anyway, you could click back in here. These settings will still show up. If you do not see what you're trying to see here, then you could simply type in the search bar as well. We'll cover in a little bit. So what we have here is you have mostly Windows accessories. These are the ones that we usually have in the older versions where everything was like Paint, Calculator, Restores, and all other options that are saved here. Then we have Windows administrative tools. Anything that we download or install through Server Manager features and role will show up under Windows administrative tools. Windows ease of access, Windows PowerShell, Windows systems, anything that you want to change, any system related commands like control panel devices. This PC task manager and bunch of other programs that you could run. For now, we have under system administrative tools, we have disk cleanup, local security policy, performance. These are all the programs that are pre-built or come packaged in with Windows Server. Anything that you wanted to add something later on, you could go into the Server Manager. Let's click on Server Manager, and you will see it will give us the option to actually add, remove features and roles. So that used to be done through the Server Manager by click no just a management option, but now you could use it from here. You see right here, add roles and features, add other servers to manage, create server group, connect connect this server to the cloud services. This is where if you have Microsoft Azure or Amazon or anything that you are trying to connect your server to. It tells you local server information, what the server name is, all the information about your own machine right now. Any other servers that are part of the server, if you have created like a HA environment or clustered environment, you'll see them here. Files and storage, what are the different files and storage, what are the different types of disks we have. Anyway, it gets too much detailed, and which I will cover later on. Trust me, I don't want to go into right now, and I don't want you to think, oh boy, that's a lot of stuff to cover. So for this lesson, we'll just keep it simple. Let's close it. Now let's go into our next one, which is the taskbar. Taskbar is always at the bottom. Every time you open any program, it will show in the taskbar. So for example, if you wanted to open, let's say, calculator, CALC, um, and it opens up the calculator, and you'll see the calculator opened up, and it is showing its program on the taskbar. You could close this calculator from the program itself, or you could right click on this program and say close window. It will close the program. So also the taskbar, one of the biggest thing the taskbar is used for is for system administrators. This is something that you probably will be using almost every day whenever you are troubleshooting issues. How is, and you do right click on the taskbar. There's a list of menu that you will see is toolbar, address, links, desktop, search, anything that you want to search. The one that I am particularly concerned about is this task manager. This is the one that you will be using a lot. Now, what task manager does, it actually gives you all the processes that are running in your system. See all the list of processes. It tells you the CPU, memory, then it tells you performance, it tells you users logged in, details, services. Anyway, all of this I will cover um, in the later lessons because there's so much to cover here. So next one we have is search bar. The last one for this lesson is the search bar. Search bar is something if you wanted to access something, some of the programs, some of the features of Windows right away, if you know exactly what you are searching for, then it would be the fastest way to do it. So let's say if I wanted to go to my C drive, I'll just type C:// it will take me to the C drive. That's one way. Or if the other way you are probably familiar with is double clicking my computer, and then you go to C drive right here, and then you'll see the same programs as you'll see in there. Same thing, a lot of things that could work with search windows nowadays. A lot of system administrators that I see nowadays, they use search bar all the time, because if you wanted to do, let's say, registry edit, you type reg edit, and you'll see right here, as soon as you type it, it will open up the reg edit program. So you could actually go and find that registry edit, but then you will have to go from one menu to another, to a third, to fourth. Same thing, anything, if you know the command, that's the thing. If you wanted to open up a command prompt, you will type cmd. You hit enter, it opens up the command prompt. That's pretty much about all the topics that I wanted to cover in this lesson, which is Windows Server GUI overview. So try them out. Anything that I did not cover, please do spend some time, cover everything in this lesson about this desktop, start menu, taskbar, and search bar. What are the different ways to install an operating system? Well, there are many different ways, but the most common ways I'm going to cover, there are three most common ways. And the first one is through the CD or DVD. Now, you have a CD or DVD of an operating system, whether it's Linux, Windows, or Mac. The installation procedure of installing an operating system is the same. So the first one is you pop the tray out of your computer, whether it's a server or laptop or workstation. You pop the CD-ROM drive out, insert the CD in, and then boot from CD. Now this is the most common way, and once the CD is installed, inserted, the installation program begins. The second way is through the ISO image. You install and or you actually download the image from the vendor website. Let's say if you are installing Red Hat, CentOS, Windows, you go to Red Hat website or you go to Microsoft website, you download the ISO image, you attach that ISO image to the virtual disk of your computer. Now, how do you access the virtual disk? Every computer has a console access. For example, Dell has iDrag, HP has ILO, and so on. So there are many different manufacturers have their different way of accessing their console. Once you access the console, you could attach this ISO image as a virtual disk and start the installation. In our lesson, this is what we will be following. The third method is the network boot. This is also common in bigger organizations where they are building hundreds of computers, installing operating systems, hundreds of them a day. That's when you need a network boot. Basically, you tell your computer to go to a specific IP and a specific folder that is being shared by a shared server that could be either NFS server or Samba server that attaches that file. You give an IP address and then you do the network boot. So these are the three common ways to do the operating system installation. And again, for our lesson, we will be covering the second one, which is the ISO download. We have already downloaded it, and we will attach that ISO to our virtual environment and do the installation. Hello friends, in this video we are going to cover the computer boot process and then the computer boot process, how it starts the operating system. Now, no matter which computer you have and what operating system you're running on that computer, the computer boot process is similar across most of the hardware platform. So let's take a look at our computer. So right here we have our computer with the keyboard attached to it, and the very first thing we do whenever we need to power up our computer is that we plug it in and power on through our socket, which provides the power or electricity to our computer. Then that electricity actually goes through the motherboard, and the very first thing that powers up on the motherboard is the CPU. CPU has been there's no instructions for the CPU as to what it should do and what it should not. Then it goes to the BIOS. The the CPU starts and pulls instructions from the BIOS software. Now BIOS stands for Basic Input and Output System. It is a software that is actually built by the manufacturer of a company or the hardware, and it has installed that tiny software on that little chip. And that little chip is called ROM. ROM stands for read only memory. Read only memory, as it sounds, is only readable. You cannot write anything on that chip. Then there are certain instructions the BIOS software has to look for, and it goes to another chip, and that chip is also located or also right next to or close to the BIOS chip on the motherboard. That chip is called CMOS, or complementary metal oxide semiconductor. This CMOS has the BIOS setting including system time, date, as well as the hardware setting. And this chip, CMOS, is actually not powered through the regular power or through the outlet.
it is always powered through a battery that is also located on the motherboard. That battery always keep that information of that BIOS setting onto that chip, and it does not lose in case the computer loses its power. Okay, so the CPU reads its instructions from BIOS, and one of the instructions on the BIOS is the post. That post stands for power on self-test. What what it really means is BIOS instructions telling CPU go to every device attached on the computer. Go through it and make sure they are in working condition. None of the device attached to the computer is faulty. If there is any, it will not start or it will not go further for booting up the computer. Once that test is passed, then the BIOS has that setting where or what is the next step I have to go to. Then BIOS has the instructions to now you should go to the disk. Disk is located, and on the disk on this platter there is this block that you're going to find on the disk, and that block is the first sector on that disk. That sector is called MBR, which stands for master boot record. That master boot records has the information of that operating system, whether that operating system is Windows or Linux and so on. And from this point on, the operating system gets loaded to the RAM or to the memory. Now, the operating procedure right from this time on starts on its own. Whatever the instructions the operating system has, what are the things it has to do, which program or which application it has to start first. It has its own set of instructions. And then it's that once it's loaded to the memory, the applications, and it goes back to the CPU to process it. Now, this entire process, when the CPU starts up, goes to BIOS, BIOS to CMOS, and then runs the post and go to the disk. This entire process is called bootstrap. In computer and in IT world, you're probably gonna hear this word a lot as well. That what is the bootstrap process of the computer? When you hear this word bootstrap, it means how your computer is going to power on, start it up, and power on and start up the operating system. All right, so again, as I said previously, no matter which computer you have or no matter which operating system you have, the basic procedure or a process to start a computer is everything comes or simple instruction comes from the BIOS to the CPU, which has a factory set instructions as to how to perform the bootstrap. In this lesson, we are going to cover how we could add resources to a virtual machine. Now, what are the resources? Resources are the memory, CPU, disk space, network cards, or anything that you add to your machine that will make it function better or enhance its operation. So by default, if you notice, when we built our virtual machine for Windows, we picked default setting for memory, default setting for CPU. Now, if your VM where you have the Windows installed, if that Windows operating system is not functioning very fast, meaning if it is taking a long time to open up a window or to a certain task, then you could add more resources to that VM. Now, of course, it depends on your own PC or your own workstation where you are actually running that VM. If your own PC has limited resources, has very few memory and very few CPU, then I'm sorry guys, you are out of luck. Then you cannot add more resources, because if you add more resources to this VM, then your own machine might not function properly. So anyway, also one more thing I do want to tell you, when you actually assigning, let's say 2 extra gig of memory to your virtual machine, that virtual machine would only use that memory whenever it needs it. Otherwise, that memory stays with your primary operating system, which is your own laptop or your own PC. Anyway, before I add more resources to my virtual machine, I wanted to check if my own PC has enough resources to share with my virtual machine. So go ahead and click on your Windows key on your keyboard. That will start up your start menu, and right click on the computer and click on Properties. Here you will see some of the resources, especially under System, and it says I have 6 gig of memory installed. I have processors with this speed, which is likely 4 CPU I have. I could right click on my taskbar, start task manager, and you see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 CPUs. I have total 6 gig of memory. So anyway, if you are going to assign 2 CPU to your virtual machine and like 4 gig of memory to your virtual machine, then you're still okay with your own host operating system. So I have verified that. Now what I will do is I'll go to my virtual machine. Right here I have my virtual machine window, and make sure the resources that you're adding to that VM is powered off. Now go ahead and click on Setting and go to System. In the System frame window, you'll see a tab says Motherboard. Now in the motherboard, you see by default it has assigned 2 gig of memory. Remember, 1 gig is equal to 1024 megabyte. 2 gig is 1024 times 2, which is 2048 megabyte. So if you are giving 4 gig of memory, then open up your calculator and simply type 4 times 1024, and you'll get 4096, and you could go in here and simply type in that number. Now I want to leave my memory as is for now because I will just add the processor, and well, I'll check if adding more processor will actually speed up my virtual machine. So I'll right now I have 1 CPU, which is also called a vCPU, meaning virtual CPU. I'll go ahead and slide that bar, drag it to the right, and it will automatically change it to 2. You can also type in 2 directly inside this box. But for now, I'll just leave it 2 for CPU. Motherboard, again, memory, I'll leave it as is. If after starting this machine, my virtual machine, if I still see that I still need more resources, I'll come back to it and I will raise my memory. I'll share it with my own operating system, computer main operating system. So for now, these are the 2 things I need to add. And again, you can add that only if your virtual machine Windows operating system where you have installed is running slow. So go ahead and click OK. Once you click OK, now you could go ahead and click on Start. It will start up, verified how it works. And if it still need more resources, you could come back, power it off first, come back to it and click on Setting, and then change the resources. So that's why I wanted to cover this topic, especially here, because you might see some of the slowness on your virtual machine for Windows. And of course, Windows is primarily a GUI, which is graphical user interface type of operating system, and it does need more memory or more CPU to process some of your tasks. File editing shortcut keys. This is one of my favorite lessons because when you have any kind of application open, whether if it's Notepad, Microsoft Word, or even a browser or any kind of application, there are certain keys that you could use. Those are the shortcut keys that you could use, and those keys are applicable in most of those programs or application. Some of those keys are Control P to print the text file. So you don't actually have to go to File and click on Print and it will print it. You could just type Control P. Just like that, Control A to select the content of a text file. Control Z cancels the previous action done by the user. Control X cut the selected text. Control C, copy the selected text. This is something I'm sure everybody uses. I use it all the time. Control C, Control V to paste the text that we have copied previously. Control F is to find the word in the text file. F3, find the next word if it is used in the find option. So if you are using already Control F, you could just hit F3 or hit enter or next word, it will go to the next find search. Control H, find and replace the text. F5, insert the system's time and date. If you wanted to use that in a script, you could use it as just like F5 as well. But if you are in a text editor and you wanted to put a date and time in there, you could just hit F5 and it will put the date and time. Alt or F10, highlight the menu bar and use keyboard to select. That is something that was used initially when there was no mouse was invented. And I'm sure everybody knows how mouse was invented, right? That's okay if you don't know. Mouse was invented with Apple. Apple was the one that came with mouse technology, and then it became so popular, so famous that Microsoft used it as well. So initially, Microsoft only had keyboard and the monitor, of course, in the tower. And every time you would do or you wanted to click something, there was no such thing as clicking. You would actually use Alt or F10 keys to move your cursor around. So we'll cover that here as well. So now let's go straight right into our Windows machine. Exit out of our command prompt. Let's close our window. This window, alright, we are back on our desktop. Make sure you're on desktop. Let's move this folder right here because I like to keep my desktop clean. Alright, so since we are talking about file editing shortcut key, so we need to have one file open so we could work in it. So let's go to our signed file folder, and I will go into Elaine because that's the only one that has some text in it. Double click and it opens up. Now if I do Control P, it will print it. So or you could do file and print, but the shortcut is Control P, and it will bring up which printer do you want it to print it to. I don't have a printer attached to my operating system as of yet. If you wanted to try it out, you could use it your selected printer. But anyway, this is how you could print it. Second one, we have select entire text, and that you would use for Control A. So if your cursor is right here or you wanted to copy everything, you could just put your cursor here and like drag and highlight everything. Or if your notepad has like thousands of words, I'm sure this is very tedious. So what you do is you do Control A, and it will highlight everything. That's one of the coolest feature. Now let's talk about Control Z, which will cancel the action done by the user. So if I wanted to delete friend and I'll remember, oh, I didn't want to delete that, then I will do Control Z and it will print that deleted item that I did in my last step. So that's again a cool feature. If you made a mistake, you could use Control Z. Control X is to cut the selected text. So if you wanted to cut this word, friend, you could do Control X, it will delete it. And now it's been cut and it's been put into a buffer where it is still there. So you could paste it somewhere. So to paste it, you could come down and do Control V and it will paste it right there. Same thing with Control C, it copies it, but it does not cut it. So if you're right here, you could, let's say if you wanted to copy girlfriend, copy, enter, and it becomes pasted right here. Okay. Isn't that easy to do, like copy and do girlfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend in real life, or boyfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend in real life, right? Anyway, it's just a joke. Now next one is Control F. Find the word in the text file. So if I'm looking for a word, specific word in a text file, let's say again this this application, this notepad has thousands of lines and I wanted to search for something specific, then I will do Control F and I will type, let's say, became. And it says cannot find. Why? Because remember one thing, this is very important. Sometimes people do confuse, hey, it doesn't have that, even though it's there, right? Click OK. You'll see my cursor was right here below the line, and it is going to look for the word became from that point down. If I want to search point up, then I will do up and do find, and it will find it. So it's always a good idea every time you need to search. Oops, you have to go all the way to the top of the line, and then you do Control F. Now let's do Control F3. So if you want to find the next word, again you could do Control F and you could do F3, and it will keep finding the next one. The next we have is Control H, which is to replace. This is something good one. I like it. Control H. Now this will replace the text that you want to find and replace it with your new text. So let's say Elaine was Jerry's girlfriend, eventually became Jerry's friend. So let's type friend and replace it with best friend. Didn't find it. Replace all. Yes, it did. Okay, so Elaine was Jerry's girl best. Oh, okay. So it also replaced the one friend that I had previously. But anyway, you got my point, right? Okay, I'm sure you did. Then we have insert the system's time and date, which is F5, which is also one of the cool thing. You just type F5 and it will paste the time of your system that is right now. So if your system time is, let's minimize this, right here, your system time is right here showing up and you just hit F5, it will put that time in there. Isn't that cool? Yes, it is. All right, the last one is when I said that there was a time when we didn't have mouse, we used Alt or F10. So if you do Alt right here while you are inside of this notepad, you'll see on the top menu it actually underlines some of the letters, like F has underline E, O has it, V has it, H has it. So the reason it has it, so because if I wanted to select file or edit and I don't have a mouse, I could just simply do at this point is Alt F and it actually opens up. Hit escape, do it Alt again, and if I do want to do format, I'll just do O and it actually going to open up that menu from the menu bar. So this was useful when we didn't have mouse, but I'm sure you don't have to use it. But in case your mouse, if your mouse doesn't work, this is how you could go around it. All right, guys, this is about file editing, a shortcut. Try it out. Maybe you will know a lot more than that. If you do know, you could also share it with other students and try it out, of course. Now let's talk about how can we access Windows system. So you have the operating system, right? And you need to access that operating system. Well, it depends what type of operating system you have. For Linux or Unix type of systems, you could access it through SSH or Telnet. For Windows, you need a client called Remote Desktop. So basically, there are two ways to access Windows operating system. One is to access to the console, which we have been accessing to the console, which is the VirtualBox console, going straight into the console. Or if it's a physical machine, then you would have to actually plug in a crash card, which is like a card that has a PC and a keyboard attached to it, and then you could actually directly attach to the server to actually get into the machine. Or you could get it through the ILO, which is also a console, ILO or iDrag, which is a console access. That's one way. The second way to access the Windows, and the most common way, is through remote desktop client. Now, to access a Windows computer through remote desktop client, the server that you're accessing should have an IP address So the server and the client both should have an IP address so they could talk over the network and can access one another. So let's first look at our access through console. You are already aware of this. This is the console access that we are going through. This is the virtual box. If you are running VMware, you'll have the console as well. If you're going to the physical server, you have that console the same way. So this is one way to access the console. The second way is to access a console through remote desktop client. So in order to access a remote desktop, or in order to access a Windows machine through remote desktop, as I said before, you need an IP address of the computer that you're trying to access. So let's see what is the IP address of my machine. So for that, you have to go to Start, and there's a search option right here. Click on Search and type CMD and hit Enter. This is going to open up your command prompt, the DOS prompt. I'm gonna just minimize it so you can see it better. Now here I want you to type ipconfig. This is the command that is used to check your network information in Windows. You hit enter. When you hit enter, you'll see a lot of information also went up, so you could just simply scroll up, but here we have the command followed by all the information. The information that you're looking for is right here. It says IPv4 address 192.168.1.15. This is the IP address of your machine. If you are most likely working from home, or if you have this lab set up at home, then you probably have this IP address. Also make sure in order for your system to get that IP address, it needs to have the setting in the Oracle VirtualBox. So if you go to the setting, so click on the lab windows, click on settings, and go to network, and you see right here it says bridged adapter. Make sure it is selected as bridge adapter and the Broadcomnet Extreme Gigabit Ethernet. I am using an actual physical cable attached to my PC. That's why it's showing up there. You're probably going to see a Wi-Fi connection in the name if you are connected to the Wi-Fi. Anyway, make sure it is this network has a correct setting. So if it does, then you will see the IP here. So now we know the IP address is 192.168.1.15. Perfect. Now we need to allow the remote access from outside to this machine. And in order for that to be enabled, that feature to be enabled, we have to actually go into our Start menu, click on Server Manager, and now click on Tools and click on Computer Management. No, sorry, not Computer Manager. You actually have to go to. Let me try a Computer Manager first, just to make sure. Yes, it's not here. I'm sorry. So you could just close this out. You could close the Server Manager as well. Here, yes, in the this PC icon, you could right click and click on Properties. Yep, that's what you need to go. So what you need to do is we need to go to Remote Settings. So when you click on Remote Setting, you will have a few options, a few tabs up there: Computer Name, Hardware, Advanced, and Remote. Make sure you are selected on the Remote tab. Now right below it, it says Remote Desktop. Choose an option and then specify who can connect. Right now it says don't allow remote connection to this computer. Okay, perfect. It is not letting anybody coming in. How can we verify? Right here, this is my PC where I am running this VirtualBox from. So I'm gonna go to Start menu and I'm gonna type right here Remote Desktop Client Connection. So this is Remote Desktop Connection. So when you type just remote, it will come up as remote desktop connection. So go click on that, and now you will type. You see, I already have the IP address typed up at 192.168.1.15. Go ahead and click connect, and you will see it is trying to initiate the remote connection to this machine in the background, my virtual machine, but it is not letting it connect. Why? Now you know why. Because we do not allow connections. So now if you want to allow connections, so click on allow remote connections to this computer. Remote desktop firewall exception will be enabled. Yes, we want you choose to enable remote desktop connection for all network connection on this computer. Yes, to enable it for selected network connection, open this firewall. If you want to run it through the firewall, meaning only allow few or certain computers to only come in, then you could actually go through the firewall. But for now, we'll just leave that as is. Just click OK. Also make sure sometimes when you select this option, by default it also select this option as well, which is allow connections only from computers running remote desktop with network level authentication. So make sure your checkbox right here is unchecked, because if it is checked, then it will not let you in unless you are connected to some kind of authentication server like Active Directory or any kind of LDAP server. So make sure it is unchecked. Now go ahead and click on apply and click OK. Now we're going to go ahead and try again with our client, and our client Windows right here. I could close it again, and then I could go back to my search and I will type a remote desktop connection. And now I'm going to type 192.168.1.15 again because that's the IP I have. Go ahead and click connect. And now it is giving me the option, the credential windows. So administrative is the account and the password. Put in your password. Hit enter. And now it's telling you, hey, you are almost connecting. The identity of the remote computer cannot be verified. Do you want to connect anyway? Yes, that's fine. Don't worry about it. If you could also click here, it says don't ask me again for connections to this computer again, because you know for sure that this is the trusted computer. So click on don't ask and click yes. And as soon as you click yes, it is connected to our machine, the one that we built, guys. This is the one that we built, and it is running on our virtual environment. And now you'll see I have this window. This is the remote desktop, and I'm straight logged in to that machine. I could actually make it smaller to see the other window as well. So you see, as soon as I'm logged in, the console window in the background, it locked up, because you cannot go in to the same machine with the same user twice. So this is something doesn't work with Windows. So that's why it locks up in the background. So now we could go back to this one and maximize the window, and you will see this is the same information that you have here. Now as I was going through finding the remote desktop setting, and you notice I clicked on the start menu and we went to the server manager, and the settings were not there. So in that case, the search comes very handy. You could have typed remote desktop. So you see right here, allow remote access to your computer. When you click here, it brings the same menu. See how powerful the search option is right here? So you don't have to actually go and find, oh boy, where is that setting that I'm trying to look for? As long as you remember it, the search and feature here with Windows, it has become very useful. So use that, it will help you a lot. So that's how pretty much I wanted to cover how you could access your Windows machine through the console and through a remote desktop client. Welcome to file maintenance lesson. File maintenance includes copy, delete, move, and rename a file or directory. So all those things that we make a change to the file itself. Now keep in mind, this is not changing the content inside of a file. This is to move around a file, or rename it, or copy it. Or matter of fact, also to create a file as well includes in file maintenance. Of course, we will cover both ways to perform the file maintenance. The first one is through the GUI, and second one is the command line. And the command lines, the commands we will learn today are copy, to copy a file, to delete a file, you'll use del, to move a file from one folder to another, we'll use the command move, and the last one is to rename a file, we'll use the command simply rename. Okay, so let me go into my Windows machine. Okay, I have my prompt open. Let me clear it. By the way, I know how to clear the screen is CLS. I forgot, I thought it was CLR. So hit enter. So it clears the screen. Now you could exit out from DOS because first we will cover the GUI thing. And the reason sometimes I mix up command, everybody from Linux to Windows, is because I also teach Linux extensively and I use Linux and Windows back and forth as well as VMware. So I teach all three subjects and I have so many experience in all three different technologies. So please excuse me if I interchangeably use words from Linux or Windows or VMware. I hope you understand. Anyway, uh, now we will use the GUI first of all to copy a file. So let's open up our folder, Seinfeld. And if I wanted to copy Jerry, I'll just simply right click, copy, and right click and paste. Now the good thing about Windows is by default if you do not give the destination name for the copy of your file, it will add dash copy to it, which is something that I really like. So that's what the copy does. Again, if you wanted to do delete, you could do right click and delete, or you could simply hit the delete key on your keyboard and it will delete it. Now moving it, you could do right click. Let's make a copy again. I'm gonna make right click copy, paste. And now if I wanted to move it, I could do right click, cut. And if I wanted to move it one folder back, I'll just go up right here, up one folder, which is my desktop, and I could just paste it right here. This is to move the file. Now, if you wanted to rename it, I'm sure you know that. Right click and click on rename and type Jerry Seinfeld full name. And that's how you do through the GUI. See, GUI has made people life so easy so you don't have to run commands. Back in the days, a few decades ago, everything was command line. Now things have changed. Everything is becoming so easy to the GUI. All right. Now let me go ahead and delete it. It's gone. Now let's do our command line. If you like to do command line, then this might be when I get to the command line prompt and run commands, that might be your favorite part. So good thing is that we are learning both ways. So let's do first. Let me go into my folder, which is desktop, CD Seinfeld, and what's inside my directory. These are the files inside my directory. Now I want to copy. Let's say I'll copy Elaine. So I'll do copy. Now with copy, I don't know if in Windows command line, if I just do copy Elaine and hit enter, it will copy it or not. Zero file copied. The file cannot be copied onto itself, right? Yeah, see, this is some kind of thing that also will that's also shows up in Linux as well if you know somewhat Linux. So anyway, let's not go there. So what it's saying is you are trying to copy elaine.txt, but what are you copying? What name is gonna give it to? Whereas in GUI is smart enough that it will automatically pick dash copy for you. But in command line, it's not possible. So you will have to give a destination name for that copy. So copy, Elaine, hit tab, it will autocomplete. Elaine again, and I'll pick elaine1.txt. It says one file copied. Let's verify it by typing dir, and you'll see there is this file, Elaine, that is copied. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and delete it. And to delete it, simply del, Elaine1.txt, enter, and that is gone. Verify if it's gone. Yes, it is gone. I'm gonna go ahead and recreate the file so we can move it. Hit up arrow key, it will bring your last command. Copy. It copied it. Let's verify it's there. Now let's move it to our desktop folder. So for that we will use the command move. It's just that simple. And Elaine, I'll put one here. And I want to move it to desktop. So I could actually use this entire absolute path and paste it right here, or I could simply do dot dot backslash and it will move it one folder back. Hit enter and it has moved. When you do dir, you see a lane 1 is gone, right? So now let's go one step back, cd dot dot dir, and you'll see the file is right here. Perfect. Now let's talk about renaming. To rename it, you use rename command, Elaine 1, and now you have to give the name that you want to rename it to. I'm gonna give it Newman.txt. Hit enter and let's do dir, and you'll see the file has lane1.txt has changed to Newman.txt. If I wanted to move it to the Seinfeld folder now, I could do move Newman to Seinfeld folder. Just simply the folder that is already inside of this path. Hit enter. Oops, what happened to my command? Did I lose the command? That's okay. I'll open up another one. Let me clear the screen. Okay, moved. I don't know. It got stuck somehow. Anyway, let's go to Seinfeld folder, dir, and you'll see, it's not there. What happened to it? Let's find out. Let's go back to our desktop, dir. It's not. Oh, it moved it. Okay, so remember I was trying to clear the screen. It actually thought that that's the name I'm giving it. Anyway, that's fine. Let's rename it Seinfeld CLS, and I'm gonna name it back to Newman. Now I'm gonna move it to Newman to Seinfeld folder. Okay, move. By the way, in Windows, the uppercase and lowercase does not matter, whereas in other operating system it does matter. Okay, now we have covered all these commands, file maintenance commands, to the GUI and to the command prompt. Try it out, practice as much as you can. Let's talk about file operation. File operation is opening, writing, editing, and saving a file. In Windows, you could open a file through command line, but it will open in GUI application that is associated with it. So when you open up a command line and you put a name of the file and hit enter, and if that file is saved in Notepad, it will actually open up the Notepad in GUI because that is a GUI application. Most of the file operation in Windows is done through the GUI because we write our Word document or PowerPoint, Excel, Notepad, WordPad, whatever those applications that you use. That is all GUI related. That's why we most of the time at our work we use these these office tools to write to the file, whether it's an application or letter or anything. Alright, so how do we do that? Let's go into our Windows machine. Let's exit out of this command prompt. Okay, and simply the file operation is double clicking to it. So Elaine, double click, and you'll see you could open this up and you could type anything that you wanted to type. Let's say Elaine was Jerry's girlfriend and eventually became Jerry's friend. It's just how you do the editing. You could save it, and that's how in the GUI world works. In Windows, if you wanted to open up the same file sorry, in command prompt. You open up a command prompt, you go into where your file is. Let's say my file is in desktop in Seinfeld folder, dir to list the files, and I want to open up a file, Elaine. So I'll just type Elaine and hit enter, and you see it opened up the program that is associated with it. There is not a real kind of editor in the command line, and it's not mostly used in the Windows because Windows is primarily used for GUI type of applications. So if you have other programs, if you're a developer, if you're writing programs, you probably have your own editors. You have PowerShells, you have other type of editors that you use, and they all of them are GUI based. Even though you type commands and scripts inside, but the whole thing, the whole pad or a whole platform is provided on the GUI. So that's what the file operation is. You could open up to the GUI or you could open it up from the command line. Finding files and directories. Let's keep moving on. Let's keep getting better with files and directories. This whole lesson is about file system and file types and directories. We'll get proficient in that. You'll get expert and you'll be great system administrator. So that's why everything that is covered in this you really need to know. So finding a file or directory is very useful feature in any operating system, whether it's Windows, Linux, or Mac, or any type of Unix flavored operating system, because every time you create a file, a year from now, 2 years from now, you will forget it where you have saved it. I am sure about it. I could promise you everybody have seen that problem. So it is very important that you should know the feature of how to find files and directories. And there are two ways you could do it. GUI, very easy way. That's why Windows is #1 operating system in the world for desktop environment, desktop experience. Another way you could do is through the command line, and we have covered a few commands through the command line. So the command that we will use is dir/s as in subdirectories, the file name. Basically, we are telling it go find this file name in this directory and from this subdirectories as well. You're probably not going to be using command line that often, but it's good to know the commands that could be used if you are writing like a batch script or anything like that. Okay, without further ado, let me get into my machine, my Windows machine. I'm gonna clean up real quick some of the um, files. Delete. Okay, I'm gonna leave Seinfeld. Okay, let's go into the GUI first. So you see at the bottom right here, it says little icon. Every time you install a Windows operating system, you will see right here at the bottom, you'll see a folder here. You could get rid of that folder by right-clicking to it, and you could do unpin or close or right here, unpin from taskbar. It'll go away, but I wouldn't recommend you because it's a very useful shortcut that you could go straight into your file system. So go ahead and click on it. And right here, it brought me to my last open file, which was Seinfeld. So I'll go back in here to desktop, to my PC, my C drive, user, administrator, and desktop, and you'll see my file Seinfeld and Elaine. So I'll go one step back, and I wanted to search a file called Jerry. And I will just simply type right here in this search folder. See this search box right here? Just type Jerry. And it will open up. It is just that simple. Now it did open up, but what if you wanted to know the location? Where is that file located? So you will find it next time. Well, we learned that already, right? Right click to it, properties, and you will see right here location. See, that's why the properties play a very important role when we wanted to troubleshoot issues like that. So the Jerry file is there. This is one way to search the file system. Also, this search feature also have very advanced level feature built in to find files with some size, some more information, but we'll cover that later. Now let's talk about the command line. I have the command line open. I'm gonna clear the screen. Oh, there is no clear here. There is one CLR, I believe. Um, There is none, but that's okay. I'll find out what's the command for clear. I usually don't use clear that much on Windows. So anyway, to create, sorry, to find a file, let's say I wanted to find it, file Jerry. So I'm on my desktop folder. I'll do dir space, and as you see slash s, which means subfolder, the file name Jerry. But make sure you also type the entire file name, which is .text. If you do not know what is the extension of the file, then you could put simply asterisk, which is going to be a wildcard, and you could just simply hit enter, and it will tell you right here. Volume in C drive has no label. That's fine. Volume serial number is this. It's just telling you about your drive. Now directory is where my Jerry file is. This is the location, and it tells you this is just one file and some of the properties associated with that file. So this is how you do the search on the command line. There are many other options you could use as well if you want to, but the simple way is doing through the dir slash s and the name of the file. Now if without the asterisk, I could have done just text and it will give me the same thing. It doesn't have to go through Jerry or George. Doesn't have to go through the wildcard. Alright guys, so this is how you do it, finding files and directories.
File system and description. Now this is the lesson we are going to cover, in which I will explain you what a file system is and what is the description of each folder, or what is the usage of each folder that is in Windows. When you go to C drive, you see different folders, right? What are those folders for? Well, all those folders are part of file system. Okay, so first let's find out what a file system is. Operating system stores data on disk drives using a structure called file system, consisting of files, directories, or folders in Windows, and the information need to access and locate them. So all that folders, file, directories, and all that stuff is stored in an operating system, and the way it is stored, the way it is structured to store, that structure is called file system. Take a look at an example. File system is like a closet. You keep your shirts on one side of the closet, you keep your skirts on the other side, your sweaters on another shelf, your shoes go on under different shelves, your bags goes on a different shelf, your boxes, your other accessories, they go in a different one. You probably have drawers for smaller accessories. So why do you actually do this way? Why can't you just put all the stuff, shirts, skirts, sweaters, everything, whatever that comes in, and it goes to one shelf or one drawer, or it doesn't really matter? Why do you actually put it the way it is, that you put shirts in one way or in one rack, and socks in the other? Well, you know the answer, right? That would be a chaos. You need an organized way to put everything together, and the reason you do that, so you will have an ease of access. Meaning, if you know you need to go, you're running late, you need to go to work, you know where your shirts are, you know where your pants are, you know where your socks, you know which drawer to open to reach for your belt, you know where to go, which shelf to reach to go for your shoes. See that? It becomes so easy. Similarly, operating system, people who built operating system have come up a different way of file system. So you could store your files in a different shelf, in a different drawer. So like any files that are related to the system will go to a different folder. Any files related to the user will go to a different folder. Any files related to the program and installation will go to a different folder. Again, the reason it is done that way, so the operating system, if and whenever there is a need, could access those files and folders a lot faster, a lot easier. There are many different type of file system now. Of course, there is no just one file system. Everybody, every person who came up with the operating system have a different type of file system, like Windows. Windows has the primary file system is NTFS. This is the file system that was introduced first time when the Windows NT came along. They came up with this file system. It is so popular, so easy to access that it is still used. There's another file system in Windows called FAT, F-A-T. Just the same way in Linux, there's a file system called ext, exe4, or XFS. In Mac, the file system called HFS or APFS. Now you're probably thinking, why do we have all different type of file system? Why can't we have just one file system and go with it? This is a good question. But again, why? First of all, why don't we have just one operating system? Why don't we have just Linux, or why don't we have just Windows? Why don't we just go with one? Make it more simpler. Why do we have so many different phones? Why do we have Samsung? Why do we have iPhone? It's just the different ways, different variety. Everybody have a different way. Everybody have a different choices. And the reason we have different file system in terms of operating system, so a person who built an NTFS came up with a different file system. Hey, I could organize files and folders better this way. Like in Linux, there's two file systems. It's always been there, extension 2, extension 3, and extension 4. Then they came up with XFS, which is a lot faster way of file system. It handles files or file system, which is like larger file system, like 2-3 terabytes. That's why it depends on the way you handle the files, and they change the file system as the operating system advances. Now let me go into my Windows machine and I will show you what type of file system we have and what are the different folders and file system used for. I have my machine, Windows machine, open up here. First of all, if I wanted to find out in my machine what type of file system I'm using, what I would do is I think first of all I'll pick up the first way is to open up, double click on my computer, and you see it says right here C drive. The C drive, if I do right click on it and I do properties, I think it should tell me file system type. Yes, right here. See, it's tells me file system NTFS. And then it tells you the used file system is 12 gig is used. And the free is 37 gig, because remember the total capacity of our Windows machine is 50 gig. The 5 gig it took 0.5 gig it took during the operating system. There it's for a different purpose. Anyway, we are not talking about the disk space. We are talking about NTFS, the file system. That's how you see this is the type of file system we have. Another way that you could find out the file system is if you go ahead and close it and go to my computer again, or this PC, right click and click on manage. Okay, once you click on manage, the server manager starts. Sometimes it takes a little longer depending again on the speed of our machine. Now go to tools and click on computer management. Nowadays, and you do right click on computer and click on manage, this server manager opens up. But before, the earlier version of Windows 2016, when you right click and go to manage, this computer management window right here, this would open up right away. Anyway, now this is the second way to finding out your file system. Go and click on disk management. And now it will open up all the disks that you have attached to your system. You'll see right here the 50 gig disk, which is the C drive right here, which is mounted right here on C drive, and it says 49.51 gigabyte NTFS. You see that? This tells you that it's a file system. There's another file system right here, which is CD-ROM. I have a CD-ROM attached. I could remove the CD from it. I think to remove it, go to devices, optical drives, and you see right here I have the Windows ISO image attached. I could remove it by unchecking it, but you see that type of file system is showing up in Windows as sorry, UDF file system. Again, different file system with different names. Let me go ahead and uncheck that, so it will remove it from here. So anyway, this is how the file system works. Now let's go to our folder structure. To find out our folder structure, you can simply click on this PC, and you see right here it says CD, local disk C drive. Double click, and you see these folder structure. Now Windows in NTFS, Windows says, hey, I want you to organize everything under these folders. First one is perf log, which is the performance logs. Usually this one is empty. It actually has all the performances. If something goes wrong in the system, everything goes in here. You could delete that folder. It's not going to impact anything. However, when you reboot the system is going to recreate that folder. Then you have a program files, meaning every program that you have installed in your system, all its files and executables and binaries and DDLs, all of them are stored in this program files. Go back. Then you have program files x86. Anything that you have installed for 64-bit, they could also be installed in 32-bit. Since my computer or our machine is 64-bit, most of them programs are here, but you will also see other programs are available here as well. So you could, if you are running 32-bit version, you can run it. Then you have users. All the users that are created in your system, their home directory will go into this folder users, and as you can see, we have a user administrator and there's a user public. If we want to create a new user in this system, his or her directory will be created under users. Going back, then you have Windows. This is the main folder. Be very careful with the Windows folder because all the system critical files and folders, all of them go into Windows. So all the files like Windows System 32, drivers, system drivers, peripheral devices that are attached to your system, anything related to that, everything goes into this folder. So you should better not touch it unless you really know what you're doing. So going back to our C drive, you see these few folders. Why do we have these folders? Why we didn't have a folder in here called ABC? We could. We just created it, right? But Windows does not create it for you. Windows says, hey, you build the system. I'm only going to give you these files, this NTFS structure, and this NTFS structure will give you these folders. So I hope this clarifies a lot of things for you about the file system. Whether you are in Linux, Windows, or Mac, everything is saved, or every file or folder is saved in a structure. That structure is called file system, and every file system is given a name, so that name is defined that file system. Alright guys, hopefully you understand. If you have any question, send me an email. If you want to learn more about Linux, check out my best-selling course on Linux at udemy.com, or you could go straight to my website utclsolutions.com and you will find the exact same course there.